homosexual conduct, and they should be not be forced by the government into situations where they're being indoctrinated in beliefs the parents don't agree with. Parents really need to stand up for these kinds of situations and just not let it go by.
T.J. Morrison felt a great deal of support from his fellow students.
I got a lot of, I'm glad you're doing this, and it takes a lot of guts to do this.
When these kinds of situations come, when there's this sort of intimidation that's going on, that people need to stand up for what's right, for their children, for future generations. What will our children and grandchildren grow up in? What kind of society will they grow up in if basically all sexual behavior and all forms of marriage are defined as equally valid? That is a recipe for national decline over time. That no nation can sustain itself with that kind of sexual and family ethic.
Attorneys with the Alliance Defense Fund filed the lawsuit on behalf of T.J. Morrison in February 2005. The case has been in the court system since that date and is currently being appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit. The main issue in this case is that Christian students should not be prohibited from expressing their beliefs. The attorneys believe T.J. is entitled to a judicial ruling that affirms his constitutional rights.
The National Education Association is on board 100% with the homosexual lobby's wish list, with their goals. So they have an in our system of public education. Groups like GLSEN, the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network, they provide the curriculum that is being taught in our sex ed classes throughout schools and in civics classes and elsewhere. They provide the curriculum, so they have a direct avenue, a direct route to your children.
Fundamentally, it is the right of the parent to provide for the education of the children, not the government and not the professional educators. It's the parents' right.
One day they're reading about puppy dogs, and the next day they're reading about going to the beach or having an argument with a friend, and then all of a sudden they're confronted with two princes who fall in love and want to get married. And the kids are going, oh, what is going on here? And I think that's the real danger that we're confronting, is that our kids are guinea pigs, because we don't know the long-term impact of these kinds of lessons for little children. And we have a whole group of adults who are homosexual or lesbian saying, this is fine. Kids can handle two mommies or two daddies, but we don't have the scientific data to prove that that's okay. And we have plenty of evidence at the experiential level that says kids can't handle this. Kids are very perplexed by it.
Family values, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and morality are all threatened by a radical homosexual activist agenda that's redefining the family, demanding same-sex marriage, teaching children that homosexuality is normal, homosexuals serving in the armed forces, hate crime laws threatening freedom of speech, laws forcing churches and Christian businesses to hire homosexuals, minority status and preferential treatment for homosexuals. If you think that agenda is bad for America, you must do something. Call today or go online to participate in the American Family Association's Family Values Survey. We'll send the results to leaders in the media, the entertainment industry, large corporations, and elected officials who support the homosexual activist agenda because they think you don't care. Let them know you do. You can make a difference. Go online at silencingchristians.com to request your copy of the Family Values Survey, or call 800-767-7440, or write to American Family Association, P.O. Drawer 2440, Tupelo, Mississippi 38803. Along with the survey, we'll also send you the book, Homosexuality: Exposing the Myths. Get informed. Be heard. Don't be speechless.
Homosexuals have all the rights that everybody else does. They weren't confined to homosexual drinking fountains. They weren't required to sit at the back of the booth. They weren't bought and sold as slaves. And certainly the fact that there are tens of thousands of people who have been involved in that lifestyle, who have found freedom from that lifestyle, ex-homosexuals, that shows that certainly it cannot be equated to the civil rights struggle of the 1960s.
Homosexuals define themselves based on their sexual desires and sexual behavior. In 1989, the public wasn't very accepting of their lifestyle. So the authors of After the Ball suggested that activists take the focus off their sexual behaviors and link to something more acceptable, like the civil rights movement. They argued that people would hate to be perceived as bigots, and that bigotry had caused the suffering or even death of innocent homosexuals. Remember, they actually wrote in the book, "Our effect is achieved without reference to facts, logic, or proof." And after all these years, there's still no proof. But that doesn't seem to have deterred them in the slightest. I'd like you now to meet a young woman who is living proof that there is no homosexual gene. Christine Sneringer is the director of Worthy Creations, a ministry in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, helping homosexuals who want to get out of that destructive lifestyle.
I grew up believing that to be a woman was a liability, really, because my mother was a victim of domestic violence in my home. And so I rejected anything to do with my gender from a very young age, and I was very masculine throughout my childhood, playing sports and anything that the guys normally did, cops and robbers, and riding my bicycle over a ramp, and all the boy things. Throughout my childhood, even into adulthood, people called me sir, son, and young man because they just couldn't tell that I was a girl because I had adopted such masculine qualities. Because I saw my mother as a victim and not somebody I wanted to be like, in my heart, I rejected her on some level. And so growing up, I never had that real strong bond with her. And I realized in hindsight, looking back, that part of my homosexuality and what I was looking for in lesbian relationships was that I was looking for my mother's love in the arms of another woman. I was also looking for protection from men because my father abused my mom growing up, and I had been also sexually abused as a young girl, and so I had a very negative view of men. And when you come to that conclusion, women become the only safe option in relationships. I found myself on a softball team from a church, and so I was surrounded by Christians because it was a Baptist church, and I was playing softball with them. It was like I woke up one day and said, I want to be like them. I want people like that in my life. I just want to know what it is about them. Why are they so different? And so it was really the love of Jesus that they displayed for each other and for me that drew me in to want to know their God. At the time that I made the decision to walk with God and say, okay, whatever you have for me, and even though I don't know how to live without homosexuality, I want to live how you want me to live. So, I knew that I wanted Jesus even more than my homosexuality. Just in working with so many people now as a director of a ministry that helps people coming out of homosexuality for the last 10 years, just seeing people routinely and hearing their stories and hearing so many common themes, like, for example, breakdown in the relationship with the same-sex parent, gender confusion, peer rejection and labeling, where a little boy grows up and he's not considered masculine by his peers. So his peers reject him and label him and call him names like sissy, fag, and queer, not because he acts out in those ways, but because he's not good on the ball field or the playing field. He's not rough and tumble like other boys. And so then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Just like if you tell a kid long enough that he's stupid, he's never really going to believe that he's intelligent. So there's too much of this kind of data that when you look at the men and women that are coming out of homosexuality and their stories, there's too many similarities. There's